Welcome to the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. I'm thrilled you're here. My name is Jason Elkins, and in addition to being your host, I'm also a former U.S. Army paratrooper, third-generation commercial hot air balloon pilot, paramotor pilot, ex-Montana fly fishing guide, advanced open water scuba diver, and a full-time nomad that's visited more than 30 countries on 6 continents. As a seasoned adventure travel expert with a passion for creating and sharing meaningful experiences, I'm on a quest to impact the lives of adventure travelers, tour operators they rely on, and the communities that host them. Every week, I bring you exclusive interviews with fascinating adventure tourism experts who have agreed to share their personal stories, favorite destinations, and some invaluable travel insights they've picked up along the way. We'll enjoy a casual conversation, create some connections, and likely share some laughs. It's my hope that by the end of each episode, this big world will feel just a bit smaller. Let's get started, shall we? Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Big World Made Small podcast for the adventure traveler. So happy to have each and every one of you back today, but I'm also very excited to have our guest today. We've got Becki Rupp. Becki is a personal trainer and adventure travel coach, and she has Trailblazer Wellness. Becki, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here.
Thanks, Jason. I'm so excited to be here.
It's going to be a lot of... Yeah, it's going to be so much fun. We spoke a few weeks ago, and I was just, yep, absolutely, we need to come back. There's some things you're doing that I don't know very much about. And honestly, if I don't know much about it, probably some of our guests don't as well. So we're going to dig into that. And then we're really going to go deep and dig into your, childhood traumas, all those things that caused you to end up doing this type of work, which I've noticed most of our guests have something that happened in their childhood that impacted them. But we won't go that deep. Becki, before we get into your story, how you got from where you were to where you are now, let's just share with our listeners, what is Trailblazer Wellness, and mixed in, I think we'll just start with that. And then we're going to talk about adventure travel coaching as well, because that's a little different, but we'll mix that in. So go ahead.
Yeah, Trailblazer Wellness is a company I started 7 years ago, which is so hard to believe.
Mm-hmm.
To support travelers who want to take big adventures, but they aren't really sure how to get ready for them, to do their training, to prepare physically and mentally for this dream trip that they've wanted to do for a really long time. And is just, a bit of a stretch or just something that is out just on the edge of their or outside of their comfort zone. And I brought together my personal training experience, my adventure travel experience, and my coaching background to support people in achieving those things.
Very cool. It sounds like you've practiced that a little bit. That's a very, very concise.
I've said it a few times in the last 7 years.
I'm sure you have. And I think the first question that maybe comes to someone's mind, might even have came to my mind, is it always a physical endeavor? Because the way you described it almost made it sound like that person that wants to go to Everest Base Camp or climb Kilimanjaro or do something very physically demanding. But I recognize there's more than just physical hurdles to overcome when you're thinking about going to a new place.
Sure.
Can you help me understand that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, adventure is such a, wide open term, right? And it's what you define it. And so that could be physical. It could be, mental. Again, just stepping outside of your comfort zone doesn't necessarily mean like climbing a big mountain or doing a big trek. It could be just visiting a new place, a different continent. Going to a place where you don't know the language, though most of my clients do fall in more of the physical adventure kind of thing. I mean, I'm up for all of it. So if you're just, feeling like, hey, I could use some help with getting prepared for, your dream trip of hanging out in cafes in Spain, sure, let's talk.
And I get that because, as the name of this podcast or, the adventure travel podcast, I learned very quickly that there's a lot of different definitions to adventure. Yeah. And it sounds like you kind of maybe define it the same way. It's kind of like those things that push you outside your comfort zone and open you up to new experiences, whether those are physical, jumping out of things or climbing things or whatever, or just like you said, just going to a new place and experience a new culture, maybe that language barrier thing that comes up, quite often. I also have this story in my head that most of your clients are single travelers, and honestly, the idea rolling around in my head is that most of your clients are probably single female travelers. Am I way off base or am I pretty close?
Nope, that's pretty absolutely. The vast majority of my clients they may be doing their adventure. They come to me as a solo individual. I have had some couples, which has been really interesting and fun as well. But most of them are, maybe married, or have a partner, but they're going on this trip on their own. Or a lot of them are actually going with a small group with a tour operator.
Cool.
They may be going on their own or with a friend or with someone that they know, but I work with people one-on-one primarily. So from that perspective, solo. Some of them are doing solo trips to a particular destination, but again, a lot of them are going with an organized tour operator or an organized trip of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
Though again, they may be going just on their own as well. So
right.
Yeah.
I've worked with enough groups, mixed men, women, just a variety of different types of people. And I recognize, and I think probably a lot of our listeners do, is even if you're going with a group, there's sometimes when you're going with a group, it's even more stressful. I think, I don't know. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but somebody that maybe you're going with a group trekking in northern Italy or something, or walking the El Camino or something. What are the things that you see come up? Like, why would someone hire you when they're going with a group?
Lots of reasons. Probably the number one thing I hear is, I don't want to hold up the group.
I knew you were going to say that. How did I know that?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of becomes funny to me. It's like everybody's worried about that.
Everybody.
And, 90% of the people are worried about that. And so not everybody can be the last one, right? They're worried about being the last one, holding up the group, But I think that's, just, again, that's maybe like an innate fear.
Yeah.
For people and wanting to be part of the community, wanting to be capable, wanting to be able to really enjoy themselves. So, really that's what I try to refocus the attention on is like, yeah, I know you're worried about being last. Like everybody's worried about being last. Let's focus on your other goals in terms of your level of enjoyment, your ability to be present, your ability to enjoy the nature around you, to enjoy the culture, to, enjoy the interaction that you're having with the other travelers in your group and not have all of the focus be on, I just don't want to be last and hold up the groups. But yes, that is a lot of the reason. And some people also just recognize that they may or may not. I mean, I've worked with people of all fitness levels, I would say, like literally like coming off the couch for various reasons to people who are very active and very fit and things like that. But some people really want the accountability. They really want support in planning for something that they don't have the expertise in. They want to tap into that expertise and set themselves up for success.
I kind of jokingly, we talked about childhood traumas. And then when this little bit of conversation we just had just now, it's like, yeah, it's that, you're in gym class and they're picking sides.
Totally.
They're picking sides. Who wants to be the last one picked because they, right?
I was one of those kids. I was not like super athlete,
Yeah.
I was among the last to be picked. And maybe this is a result of that trauma. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So there, I'm not last
We got to
anymore.
the trauma really quick, didn't we? Well, I get it. It's like, you don't want to be the one, like you said, the one in the group holding. Everybody has to get picked, and I don't want to be the last one to get picked. So you can say, don't worry, the group's not going to leave you. That doesn't matter. That doesn't really help alleviate anything, does it? Because the gym teacher's going to say the same thing. Don't worry, everybody's going to get picked. Okay, well, I don't feel any better about that. I'm also curious because I can imagine a scenario where people think they're coming to you because they need to get in shape physically for a trip. And I guess what I'm curious about, like, I just imagine, hey, I need to get in shape for this trip. And then 2 or 3 calls in, you guys are talking about childhood drama, or you're talking about just releasing fears and anxieties and preparing yourself to, like you said, be present, enjoy it, connect with other people. And by the end of the coaching program, they're kind of like spend a lot more time and energy discussing those things as opposed to, did they go to the gym like they said they were going to? I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the reasons that I have the coaching certification, the coaching aspect of this, which I love just as much as the physical. Any personal trainer, Chat GPT, whatever can give you a training plan, right?
Yeah, right.
That's there's absolutely some thought and magic to it, but it's the coaching piece of it is what really amplifies the experience to address, like you said, like things you may not have even realized were rolling around inside your head. And as the trip gets closer and sometimes, I'll be honest, things go wrong during training. You twist an ankle, you get COVID, you fall down and hit your head. I mean, not to be like you're doomed, but these things happen. Or just you get really sick, whatever, like things, or a member of your family gets sick, or something comes up where things are not going as expected. And that is sometimes where it like switches from just like, oh, am I checking the boxes on the training plan to, holy crap, like, what are we going to do? How am I going to manage this? Am I going to still be able to go? I mean, I literally just had a client come back from the Inca Trail who, really inflamed her Achilles, about 7 or 8 weeks out from the trip. And it was a long recovery. And, 3-4 weeks before the trip, she's like, all right, let's talk about the go, no go decision. And this is someone who was, again, like really fit, experienced, and didn't necessarily anticipate that she would have a like a medical thing go on, but it just ended up being a little more, had this twist that we worked through together, and ultimately she went and everything was great. But things come up along the way, and so that can take it to different directions sometimes.
And I've been around some of the coaching world and kind of am familiar with things like saying like, the thing is not the thing. So maybe, an example is the client that's worried about being the last one on the trek, or, the one that's walking the slowest. But then as you dig a little deeper, maybe there's something else that is even bigger concern, but it's a little easier to focus on. Well, honestly, it might be easier to focus on my perceived physical limitations as opposed to my ability to make friends, or my fear of maybe just actually leaving the country. So maybe your friend talked you into going on this trek thing, and you tell yourself, well, I'm worried I'll be the last one on the hike or whatever. But maybe you've never been on an airplane. Maybe you've never been outside the country. Maybe you're afraid that your friend is going to connect better with the rest of the group than you do. I suspect some of that stuff comes up sometimes, right?
For sure. I mean, for a lot of people, it is their first group trip. And that has its own dynamics, which you've kind of alluded to. And, it can be tricky, right? To navigate that and to know what to expect and know how you're going to react. And like you said, am I going to connect with people? Am I just going to be like sitting by myself at dinner? Or, which you're not, because it's a group trip. But people don't know what those dynamics are often before they go. And even people who have been on other group trips, maybe they've done trips that are more culturally based or whatever, and this is again maybe a more advanced or just challenging thing. And so we get into, I'm here for all of it. If you want to just talk about what you've done this week in terms of your training plan and that sort of thing, that's fine. If you want to dig deep and go into like all those underlying things, absolutely, I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's very cool. Because I imagine some of your clients maybe haven't even been with a group of women in 15, 20 years because they're coming out of a marriage and they don't have any friends. And I think that could be very intimidating, So I could see coaching sessions going into conversations around that and almost don't have anything to do with the trip, but obviously are important to make that happen. You mentioned couples. You mentioned, there's couples out there that maybe come to you. What is that? Does that typically look like one person's really excited and gung-ho and the other one's not so much. So the one that's excited says, "Well, okay, what do you need to make this happen?" And she says, "Well, I need some support," or the other way around. It could absolutely be the other way around. I'm just, what does it usually look like when a couple comes to?
Yeah, I've just had a few. So usually it's like both people recognize that they really need some support with getting ready and they're in it together. So they're really there to mutually support each other, and it's not necessarily one dragging another one to it.
Okay.
Fortunately.
Well,
So
the reason I asked that
why do you ask?
yeah, why do I ask that? Well, when I was running a travel business for a fairly large company, we had a bunch of retail employees and different types of people around the world. And this guy came up to me and he said, "Geez, Jason, I love to travel. I want to get my wife to go with me, but she doesn't, she's nervous about everything. And we should set up trips for people that are afraid to travel," which I don't know. I don't know if that's a good business model, but I could see the desire from his perspective. Like, I really want to go. And she, she thinks Europe is dangerous. So she's not, she doesn't want to go anywhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I was thinking,
I've actually
instead,
found the opposite, Jason. It's so interesting.
Probably.
Like the role reversal. So when I started the business, or when I was conceptualizing the business, I was I almost hate to admit this sometimes because it's not very progressive, I guess, that I thought that a portion of my clients could be women who were going with their husbands and they were wanting to make sure that they could keep up.
Mm-hmm.
What I've found is actually
it's the opposite.
Kind of the opposite, not really the opposite per se, but I work with so many women whose husbands are not interested in traveling.
I bet, yeah.
Yeah, it's so interesting to me, like their spouses, whatever. I work with a lot of women who have, female spouses as well. But it's often the women who are traveling either with a group of women or or on their own, whose partner is staying at home and they want the extra support because they just don't really necessarily have somebody in their life who can relate and their spouse can be or partner can be very supportive, but they may not know how to get ready for a big big multi-day hike. They may not just have any desire. They might have health issues that's keeping them from doing the things with their partner. So it was kind of a surprise to me that I do have a few that are like, my husband is just, going to race up the mountain and I want to make sure that I'm feeling good. That is a small minority of my clients.
It makes sense that you would attract those folks. I say women, whatever, or just people that really want to travel, but their partner doesn't, or other people in their world just don't get it. Because even if it was I'm excited about my trip, and every time I mention it to him or her, they're just like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure you'll have fun." There's like no enthusiasm. There's no or
there might be a ton of enthusiasm, but they just don't know what to do to support them, even. Because that's just not their jam. Which is
because I could imagine a scenario where someone would say, "Oh, I'm really excited about my trip, but I'm worried about the language barrier or whatever, or I'm worried about keeping up with the rest of the group." And your partner may be trying to be supportive and may just say, "Don't worry about it," or they might
be fine.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Or they might say, "Well, if you don't want to go, you don't have to go." Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. Or some people are problem solvers who, especially some men that I know. Okay, well, all you have to do is blah, blah, blah. All you have to do is do this. All you have to do is do that.
So wouldn't it be so nice to have someone to talk to that was supportive in a really supportive way? Is it like a coach?
And,
that gets excited with you.
Who's done these things too. Yes. That's what I hear a lot. Well, it's like, you've done these things. You've hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. You've climbed Kilimanjaro. You've done the Camino. You've done these hikes in Europe. You've done things in South America. Whatever. I do hear that a lot from people. Is just you can relate, and having someone in your corner who can relate and who I try not to offer a lot of advice necessarily. But I will if pressed. And and I have certainly not done everything. far from it. Sometimes people ask me, do you go on your trips, on client trips with them? And I'm like, I haven't seen cloning work yet, so no. Because I will often have, obviously multiple clients in different parts of the world at the same time.
Yep.
But I have had some experiences that I have gone on with clients. But I have done similar kinds of things to most of what my clients are doing. So that can be useful in the context of the conversations.
Absolutely. And a bit, I guess, from my perspective is there's a lot of value in a coach. And I think we're kind of touching on that, but also like, you tell me your perspective, you can just tell me I'm crazy, but for a while I was thinking that, the value in the coach was just helping you get really clear on what it is you want to do, but also why, like what's the big why behind it.
Yes.
And maybe some visualization, some stuff, because you're not going to the gym to get in better shape. You're going to the gym because you want to enjoy the experience. And why do you want to enjoy the experience? Because you want to connect with other people that maybe have similar interests or whatever. So it's like, why are you doing it? Not just what do you need to do, but why are you doing it? And then figure out, what's getting in the way. What are the stories in your head or whatever. Exactly. And then just the accountability part of it. It's just like, so when they show up and say, well, I've been eating mac and cheese and haven't been to the gym all week, you can have that conversation. Okay, well, what was behind that? And then you might find out, well, I've been eating mac and cheese and didn't go to the gym because I'm worried about my safety and wherever we're going hiking. It has nothing to do with, all these things that come up. What's your typical program look like? Or is there a typical program? I'm sure it's customized, but do you typically meet with people once a week or something like that for a certain period of time? Or is it more, what does that look like?
Yeah, so just to kind of circle back on what you were saying about the why and the vision, that is something that we dig into. We talk a little bit about it on a consultation call. I do a free 30-minute consultation call with people to just, see if it's a fit, to, find out a little bit more about what they're planning to do. Again, like what's their vision? What are they concerned about? That sort of thing. But then in the kickoff call, in our first call, our session, it's mostly video. Occasionally I do like calls, but actually it's video. We definitely talk about your vision for the trip and why it's important to you and why now. That can be very grounding, like you said, for when things maybe go a little off the rails or when you're struggling with motivation. I was just having a conversation with one of my clients earlier this week about, staying on track and motivation. And one of the things like we talked about was maybe putting, a picture of Mont Blanc as a screensaver, to help her remember to get up at lunch and go do her workout, break away from her desk. Because I work with people who are busy executives, who are nurses, doctors, people who all walks of life, right? Retirees, definitely, but people who are full on in career mode. I'm a corporate refugee, I quit the corporate world to start this business. So I get the 50-hour weeks, oh my gosh, now I have to travel next week for business. I get it. I get it. So having that vision, having your why, and also knowing your strengths and digging into your strengths and other successes in your life. That's like the coachy part, and drawing on that to support how do you get back on track, or how do you break away from your desk? How do you fit in? How do you prioritize this training in your life with your kids and your spouse and your job and your this and your that? Because most people don't come to me like twiddling their thumbs, right? They're like, I'm not sure what to do. So, some people do have the luxury of time, but a lot of people don't. Even people, who are retired, they have volunteer responsibilities or responsibilities or whatever. We're busy, right? We're busy people. And so having that why, that vision, that grounding can help with, the prioritization or the negotiation with yourself and maybe with others around, okay, this is really what I need to do to set myself up so that I can enjoy this trip that I've invested in. It's investing in yourself. I call it the journey before the journey. The pre-trip journey is all about what do you do beforehand so that you can really make the most of what you're doing.
Right. And I imagine, I mean, I don't understand it, but I've been around long enough to see that there are some people that actually do just like to get up and go to the gym or go for runs.
I do. I'm
Do
one of
you?
those people. Yes, I
But
know. It's
but
kind of
somebody
crazy,
that
but
but somebody that wants to climb Mount Kilimanjaro isn't necessarily the same person that
no,
likes to wake up and go to the
definitely.
gym.
No,
So if you're
absolutely. There are a lot of people who climb Kilimanjaro, as I'm sure you know. And yeah, no, not all of them are like runners or people who want to get up in the morning and go, whatever.
yeah, so
No,
for the
absolutely.
rest of us that don't wake up motivated to go to the gym, that's why you're talking about like a screensaver of Mont Blanc or something, or that really clear vision. I remember doing some work with some folks in the past where it's like, okay, we're going to imagine, if we figure out that just being at the top is the thing, if that's what your thing is, it's like, okay, how are you going to feel it, taste it, smell it, hear
Sure.
it, and
Yeah.
implement all those sensations so that you can feel it in your body so that, so it helps you believe that it's real because the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what it feels. And, and so
Yeah.
create that feeling. And then when you're waking up thinking, should I go to the gym? You got to take that moment and think about
Yeah.
how it was, I don't know, drinking
How it's
coffee
gonna
on the
feel.
top of Kilimanjaro, whatever. But anyway, so it's very, very cool. I want to figure out, because you kind of mentioned a couple things, you're corporate escapee or whatever word you used,
Yeah.
refugee. So let's go back and figure out how the heck you got into this, because
Sure.
I think there's a few steps along the way, and
Just a few.
let's try and get to the first step, because I think the stuff we're exposed to in childhood tends to always kind of come through somehow. So I guess I'm just going to ask you, how far back do we need to go to get a feel for what's going on?
Yeah, let's go in the Wayback Machine.
You're a coach. You've done this before. You've done these exercises. This should be easy for you.
Don't necessarily go back to childhood. That might be a little like I'm also not a psychotherapist. That's very clear in my contract.
I'm happy you mentioned that because I make that joke, but it's not so much about that, but sometimes it's helpful to how do you feel now? And when's the first time you remember feeling that way? It's not psychotherapy, but it's just creating connections. You mentioned, like when have you had successes in the past?
Exactly.
And how do you, hey,
Yes.
you can do this type of thing. So what's your first memory?
Yeah. No, I do. That's definitely part of the process is understanding what people's successes have been in life and how that relates to what they're about to do. But yeah, in terms of me, how did I get here?
I know. Like, oh man, Jason, this sounded like such a good idea, but no. How did you get here? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So yeah, actually, let's go back to childhood, and I share this story on my website and stuff too. My grandparents were world travelers, and I have vivid memories of sitting in their basement watching slideshows. Yes, slideshows of their travels.
Wait, you might need to explain that to
I
a
might
few
need
of
to
our
explain
listeners.
this to
What's a
those who are a
slideshow?
little younger.
Is that like
So
Instagram?
yeah, right. My grandfather was really loved photography and took some amazing pictures. And I actually recently, we're kind of going through some things in my family right now, and we came across a folder that had a list of my grandparents' trips from 1977 through 2000. And what I remembered for their trips was definitely Mexico. They went to Mexico a lot in the late 70s, early 80s. That they went to Vietnam, that they went to China, that they went to South America. I actually have a picture my grandfather took of Machu Picchu here in my office. So I knew that, but this list was like, and one of their last trips was 1999, I think, was to Uzbekistan.
Wow,
Okay.
that's out. Yeah, that's
seriously,
off the beaten path.
80-year-olds going to Uzbekistan.
Yeah.
In the 1990s. So they were pretty adventurous, but they had gone to Nepal, which I had forgotten or didn't realize. They had been to South America multiple times. Yeah, just like, it was insane. I was like, well, no wonder I'd have the travel bug, right?
That explains a lot. Yeah.
And they just, they lived very modestly. In fact, my uncle still lives in their old house. So when I go to visit, I like literally go to my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
And it is 1,000 square feet, maybe. And the basement seems so much smaller than it did when I was watching the slideshow, right? And you would never guess. Like, if you just drove down the street and looked at their house and looked at their cars, you would never guess they were world travelers. So opened it up and made it all very accessible to me.
So it sounds like you have vivid memories of sitting in the basement watching slideshows. Some people would think, oh, this is really cool, spending time with grandma and grandpa watching slideshows. Other people probably that are not listening to this podcast would hear that and think, oh, that reminds me, my grandparents used to go on and on and on about their trip to Yellowstone or their whatever they did. Do you remember at the time, were you as enthusiastic, or are you looking back at it now kind of through the lens of somebody that's traveled a lot? And do you remember how you felt at the time?
I think I must have been excited. I mean, I must have been really interested and curious because, it was just amazing to me. Like all these different cultures and people that didn't look like us and mountains and oceans and just amazing things. And I was like, I want to go see all that stuff.
I love it. Were these your mom's parents or your dad's?
My dad's parents. Yeah.
Your dad's parents. So now tell me a little bit about your dad. Did that rub off on him? Was he enthused? I mean, you guys weren't traveling when you were young. It doesn't sound like, but
we didn't have any money, to be honest. So, I didn't travel internationally. I didn't, cross the ocean until I was after college, when my sister did study abroad. My younger sister did study abroad. So my first trip overseas, outside of the country besides Canada and Mexico, was when I was like 22.
Okay.
So I didn't grow up traveling outside, like very exotically, I guess. I had these experiences with my, through my grandparents, of hearing them talk about it, seeing the things that they brought back and the pictures they took. But I didn't start my own international travel career or overseas travel career until, into my 20s. And then, even then, I just, I felt there were people who, and I knew people who, after college is like, hey, I'm just going to go backpack across Europe. I was way too financially conservative for that. I was like, nope, I got to stay here and get a job and pay off my student loan. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go and do all the big things. I always knew I was going to do them. It was always part of the plan. But I was like, nope, I got to feel secure. I need to, get my ducks in a row before I undertake that. So
sounds like a reasonable way to do it. There's a few different schools of thought. I'm not sure it's schools of thought.
There's schools of thought, and there are definitely different approaches. And am I incredibly envious of the people who did that right out of school? Yeah, I was.
Well, some of them just could do that. Some of it, they weren't intentionally being careless. They had a backup plan. They had other people in their lives that made sure they were financially secure. I do want to ask you this before we move too far forward, though, is if I do the math in my head and try and make a few assumptions here, it sounds like your grandparents didn't start traveling until your father was an adult on his own, doing his thing.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So he didn't benefit from traveling with them at all. He moved out and they went and started traveling.
Yeah, they had 4 kids and they were all grown and on their own before they stared traveling. Okay.
So they took the same approach that you did early on, right?
So I guess maybe that was
an influence as well.
Like, I saw them travel into their ease, like very roll it fairly easily. And that was obviously way before, the internet and so many international flights. They figured it out. So I guess I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do when I.
Have you had conversations with your dad or mom about like how they felt about, like, how did your dad feel about his retired parents traveling around the world? Did he think that was cool and different? Do you have any idea how he felt about it?
Yeah, I think he thought it was cool. He and my grandfather, his dad, took a couple of trips together. They went to Israel together. Cool. And they went to Greece together, I think it was. And so, they had some travel experiences together. My sister and my nieces to South Africa. They did not travel as extensively as my grandparents did. They're a little bit more homebodies, but they traveled. They're totally on board with it, and they're very supportive of me doing all this. Absolutely, nothing that they've never tried to stop me or said they were worried or anything like that. They've always fully supported this and said, go,
very cool,
see the world and enjoy, and very supportive.
It sounds like your grandparents, just through their influence in the slideshows and stuff like that, kind of opened you up to it. Was there a point do you remember a specific point in your life where you're like, I'm going to work in the travel business at some point? Do you remember that?
And I was a journalism major.
Okay.
Well, I was a writer as a kid, and decided to be a journalism major. And at one point, I thought, oh, I'll do international reporting. You know, that sounded great. I'll travel, get paid to travel, and be this international reporter. That didn't really work out for a number of reasons, but yeah.
Tell
so
us more.
Like,
Tell us more.
No,
We're not going to pass over
like,
that.
yeah, like, again, I decided for one thing that after my internship with doing like real news reporting, that was not my jam.
Okay.
It was too negative. I didn't like all the negativity.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that from a few people. Yeah.
I won't be a reporter. So what am I going to do? So I actually moved to DC after college, and so I was in kind of an international scene, but I ended up doing communications and marketing and things like that with my degree. You know, again, always maintain interest in various cultures and countries. Went to several events at embassies in DC, which were a lot of fun. So got some exposure that way. But yeah, the international travel reporter thing didn't really pan out for me.
You know what? I get that though when you mention that, because I can imagine it seems very glamorous, sexy, whatever word you want to use. But then when you think about, well, what do I see about international news on the television?
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
was not going to go to war-torn countries. That was not me.
You know, you don't see a lot of, in the mainstream media, you don't see a lot of reporting on cool places to go and visit and cool, you know, cultural communities and all that stuff that you probably imagine.
Now.
But, we do now because
then, it wasn't, you know, there were obviously some magazines, you know, Condé Nast, Traveler existed, you know, when I graduated from college, and some other things. But
there's a lot of journalism majors fighting for those jobs.
Well, exactly. I just wasn't up for that kind of rat race. And I also had this dual interest in fitness and sport. You know, I was always interested in sports as a kid as well. And so I kind of like started going down that path a little bit with my degree. I worked at a sports related magazine, for a local sports related magazine in DC area for a bit. Did some freelance writing for some sports related publications. So there were kind of those two things going on. And so, and then magically over the next 30 years, then I brought them together. The fitness and health and stuff I put together with the travel.
It's very cool. So you went to Washington, D.C. for a specific job? You already had the job lined up, or was there something?
No, I just moved there.
Why did you
choose?
You choose Washington, D.C.? Well, if you're willing to share it.
No, it was, you know, it's a city of a lot of opportunity. And I was also a poli-sci, like, concentration under my journalism degree. My sister was there. One of my sisters was there going to American University. I had a friend who was moving there to actually go to George Washington for grad school. I was like, well, why not? I wanted to get out of Chicago because I went to Northwestern. So I was like, I don't want to spend another winter in the Midwest. That's for sure. And DC seemed like it could be relatively warm and nice and exciting. And it was all of those things. And it was fascinating. It was a great place to live. I believe at least every American should live in DC for 1 year. It's just an education in and of itself. You just learn so much about the world. But
I know you live in Colorado now, but where did you grow up? Around Chicago or in the Midwest? It sounds. Where did you actually grow up?
Yeah, Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. Yeah.
So,
Do you, I guess, I'm sure when you went to Washington, you mentioned you kind of a lot of international exposure to different, people from different places. Did you have that in Michigan growing up? Do you remember in high school? Like, did you guys have exchange students? Do you remember? Oh, really?
Not really. No.
Huh. Okay.
I grew up I grew up in Michigan in the 80s in a semi-industrial area, and it was very blue collar. And
so then my question makes sense. Do you remember the first person you met from another country that inspired you or had any influence on your decisions?
Gosh, really? I think in college was when I was first really exposed to.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, wait, journalism. Yeah.
all over the world. I mean, the school I went to, Northwestern has a big international draw.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm
and
sure.
It's a smaller school, so smaller than the big state universities. So it had the opportunity to mix and mingle, I think, a little bit more. You were less likely to just kind of fall into your pod and not be exposed to other people you could. But I got to meet people from all over the world at Northwestern, and no one really stands out specifically offhand, but just more the experience of the broadening of the aperture of possibility. And, college also was a place where people went on study abroad. Unfortunately, the journalism program at that time, because of our requirements, I was not able to do study abroad. I really wanted to.
Yeah, I bet.
But my sister did. Yeah, my younger sister did. And friends, I had a lot of friends who did it. And now, I have 2 nieces who both did study abroad. And it's just such an amazing experience. So I guess I just had to make my own little study abroad later in life.
If based on what you told me, you said you were 22 when the first time you left the country, North America?
Yeah. The first time I left North America, yeah.
Okay. So, and that would have been, I'm guessing, somewhere around the time you finished school and moved to Washington. So was it before you went to Washington, or where did?
No,
because I want to learn more about that trip. Okay, so tell us about that trip.
Yeah, I went to England. My sister was studying abroad there, so I went over to visit with her and spend time with her. So that was in the early 90s. And got my passport, got on the plane. Now, I had flown by myself as young as 10. So I, certainly I was not afraid of flying. I wasn't worried about traveling by myself. Like, I didn't have any of those fears. It was awesome. I landed in London and met up with her. Her program was outside of the city. I learned some very important things, like Leeds Castle is not in Leeds. I assumed that Leeds Castle must be in Leeds, right?
Yeah, I would. That seems reasonable.
Seems reasonable, but not so much. Just learned about navigating. Well, I was living in DC, so and in Chicago, I'd already used public transportation, so that was no big deal either. But
you'd been.
I was just fascinated by the age of everything. Finding my grandmother's great grandmother's church in this little hamlet outside of London. We did some family history things, and I have ancestors from England and Scotland and Ireland, imagine that, with the red hair. So we did some exploring. My sister and I did some exploring with that, and it just was mind-blowing to see all these things that were built far before anything I'd ever encountered in the U.S. Yeah. It was cool.
It's interesting as I think back from some previous conversations I've had here on the show. London seems like I don't know if I'd say a common theme, but it's a common theme. It's surprising how many people that have ended up in tourism tell me about their first overseas experience in London. Yeah. Some of it involves a lot of drinking and partying. Because I don't know, I've never spent any time in London, but I've noticed that as part of the trend. I'm not going to ask you about that. Don't worry.
We might have gone to a few pubs. Yeah, for sure.
But it just, I feel like, geez, I missed the London stage of my life. I don't know what I was thinking. But okay, very cool. And you were there, you said a couple weeks, something like that?
Like 10 days. I think that's as much time as I could get off of work. It was the old.
Now you had your passport and you had a stamp in your passport. So that can kind of open up things. Yeah, ready to go. All right. Mm-hmm. So where do we go from here in this conversation? You went to London. That was your first trip. Out of North America. You're still working, you said you were working PR marketing type of stuff, or communications, I think you said. Was that international type stuff? I can imagine that scenario in Washington, or what kind of work were you doing? Tell us.
I worked with associations, trade associations, nonprofits, worked in that field. So actually that does tie into I can tie that into my current experience and my current, how I approached my business, because I did work for this organization. My first job was with an organization called the American Society of Association Executives. So there's an association for everything.
It sounds like an association for
associations. Yeah, pretty much. Right. So I was exposed to the world of, trade associations, professional associations, organizations where you bring together people who have common interests, right? Whether it's business or personal or whatever. And I was like, wow, there really is an association for everything. So when I started my business, when I decided I was going to put together this travel thing and adventure travel, I thought, well, there must be an association for adventure travel, right? And sure enough, there is.
Yes.
So I joined it, and it was.
There may be a few that call themselves that, so I don't want to make any assumptions. Which one are we talking about?
Adventure Travel Trade Association.
I was 99% sure that's the one you were going to mention. I just didn't want to.
That was it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, and I also had over the years gone into business to business marketing, and so I thought to myself, well, where is my target audience going to be? So if my target audience is people who want to do adventure travel, aspiring adventurers, well, where are they going to hang out? Where are they going to go? Well, they're going to go to companies that take them on adventure trips. And where do the people who do these adventure trips hang out? Well, they hang out at ATTA.
Mm-hmm.
And so I joined and started networking, and my plan was and is and still works that I get referrals from adventure travel companies. Now,
that makes sense.
All my clients. Yeah. But I thought that's going to give me the mass as opposed to just hoping that Google finds me. Which people do find me through Google and AI and things now. But back in the day, it was a little less. Yeah, I needed to get my foot in the door and understand the industry, because I was not in the industry. I worked, before I quit my job, I was working for a health insurance company. So I was new industry, new role, everything was brand new. I started from ground zero. It was because I want to get smooth. It doesn't have to be smoothly. We can take the scenic route. But from Washington, working for the Association of Associations, or that's what I heard. Yeah.
To I'm working at a health insurance company, and there must be an association in Colorado. So we took. Yeah. So let's not miss anything big here.
Yeah. So I met my husband doing wilderness search and rescue in DC area. So I had discovered the mountains and that I love to hike and ride my bike and do all those things after I moved to Washington. And there are lovely mountains outside of Washington, D.C., Virginia, Maryland, the Blue Ridge, all that, Shenandoah. And I just fell in love with all that. So when I was not doing my day job, I wanted to be outside and doing all that stuff. And I decided to join a wilderness search and rescue group in the area. Go find lost people. And my husband joined at the same time. And so we met doing that. Then he got transferred for work out to Colorado. We were both really done with DC. DC's great for a few years.
Yeah.
And then if you're not a hardcore political junkie, it gets really old.
Well, and if you like, I heard you say there's mountains around Washington, D.C.
Yeah, there's a ton of great recreation, outdoor recreation.
But Colorado...
But Colorado's
a little different.
Yeah, definitely different. So he got transferred for work. I followed along, and we made our home here in Colorado in 2000, and we've been here ever since. And then, I just kind of, my career trajectory took me to the health insurance space because I wanted to do something related to health and wellness.
Okay.
I had gotten I got my personal training certification because I wanted to help people actually get healthier. I really wanted to help people, find the way to make exercise work in their life. I could see and feel from my own experience how much of a difference it could make in my life and my confidence and my enjoyment and all the things. So, but I was working this big corporate job and I didn't really have time to do personal training clients because you can't just say I got called off to do a video shoot in Tucson and I got to go tomorrow and fly down there. Sorry, we're not going to be able to have your session this week.
Yeah.
I eventually got to the point where the golden handcuffs were, just a little too tight, and I was able to leave that and go to the personal training and coaching. So that's kind of a roundabout way.
Did the coaching come into play before you started thinking about adventure travel?
Yeah, so I was doing I had the personal training. I decided to add the coaching because I was like, yeah, you can give someone a plan, like I said earlier, you can give someone a plan, but the coaching is really about how do you get people to actually make changes and do things differently in their life and sustain. And it's the whole teach people how to fish, not just give them fish. And so yeah, I got the coaching certification. I worked with a career coach to figure out what do I want to do with all this. And then she's like, well, you could train people to hike. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. That seems kind of goofy. But the more I thought about it, the more it became kind of intriguing. And so I'm not necessarily teaching people how to hike, but I'm teaching people how to, or helping people with progressing their hiking or their biking or whatever, so that they can do the things they want to do. I had a coaching client who was retiring, and this really actually like crystallized it for me. She's like, well, when I retire, I really want to go do these volunteer experiences down in Guatemala and over in the Philippines and this sort of thing. I want to travel and do these volunteer experiences, but I'm afraid I'm not, it's going to be pretty taxing, and I want to get to the point where I feel comfortable doing that. And I was like, well, maybe this really is a thing.
Ding,
and
ding,
then
ding.
I thought back to our experience. My husband and I had hiked the Inca Trail to Machu Picchu years before, but I was like, yeah, people were really struggling. It didn't have to be that way. You don't have to struggle. I mean, it's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely a hard trip. If you prepare, and my experience had been with doing half marathons and triathlons and other things, like if you prepare, then you are likely to be able to do it. I mean, there can be extenuating circumstances, obviously. But for a lot of these things, they're eminently doable with proper. So that's how I was born.
I appreciate the path you just described makes perfect sense. And, I see more and more of kind of the outdoor coaching, some travel coaching stuff. Was that on your radar? Did you find that very quick? Like, did you think you were like the first one? Were you the first one? I don't know.
I made it up for myself. I did do market research because I was in marketing. And after I kind of conceptualized it, I did go and say, is anybody else doing this? And I found a few people. Yes, there was somebody else who was doing a pretty similar thing to me that I was doing and had started like 6 or 7 years before I had. But I didn't find that person until after I had already like put it all together. So I wasn't copying him.
No, I wasn't. I was not suggesting you copied anybody.
But, there are like more and more of these kinds of things nowadays. I feel like in the last kind of post-COVID almost, or maybe I just discovered it. I discovered this world of niche coaching as I was doing, figuring out my own business and building my own business. I found more and more of these people. But it is still pretty unusual. It is definitely an unusual niche. Most of the people that I talk to say, "Oh, I've never heard of such a thing." So, yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because that was going to be kind of my follow-up question. Was sometimes when you're the only one, like, I'm just giving an example. Let's just say you're the only one, and nobody has there's no awareness of it as even a product or service. And sometimes you're like, some people might think, oh, well, being the only one means you have captured the market. Yeah, but being the only one is kind of sucks because, right. So you need some other people out there to get the word out. So, and then you just have to be the best one.
Or, it's different coaches and different things for different people.
Yeah.
Many of the people that I've seen in this space, there are a number of males. Okay. So I'm different than that, and or younger. There are some females who are much younger. I'm in my mid-50s, and my clients tend to be most 45 up to 70s. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're surprised when they find out how old I am, but I can relate to that swath of people who are later in their careers or retired, and I have more experience in that realm than perhaps some of the others who are doing this kind of coaching.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want to say anything that would knock anybody that's doing anything, but just that maturity, that the ability to relate. And I'm going to ask you this because I haven't really had an opportunity to ask anybody with personal training experience this question, but there's got to be a lot of different reasons people choose different trainers or coaches. But I suspect that intimidation is a big one. Especially maybe for women. I don't know.
It can be. I mean, and it's, again, like I'm very relatable. I'm not a super athlete. Sometimes I'm like, oh, but I'm not as much of an athlete as XYZ person. But that could be, like you said, intimidating. But I do have experience, relevant experience, and I think I'm pretty approachable. Like, again,
I think so. I would agree.
I'm certainly the person who likes to run and go work out, and I'm, pretty active. So from that perspective, I might be more active. I am more active than some of my clients, though not all of them. Like I said, like there are definitely people who are as active, if not more active than I am, that I work with. But I'm in the realm, like I'm kind of in that ballpark, if you will. That
Well, you definitely don't come across as the gym rat. I don't know, and I don't know what that word means. So please, anybody that doesn't like me saying that,
right?
muscle head or whatever, there's one of the gyms, the the no something zone, you're just nice. You're friendly, right? You're outgoing. You don't come across as intimidating. A couple other things that came up as you were saying that was, okay, so you've got clients that are muscle heads. I don't know.
No, not generally muscleheads, but definitely people who are like
not.
very accomplished athletes.
Yeah. But the thing about it is like, well, I don't know if Tiger Woods is a good example, but I'm going to use it. Maybe it's not.
Okay.
Maybe he's out of the popularity right now. But Tiger Woods as a coach,
That'd be intimidating.
All the big basketball players have coaches. They're better athletes than their coaches are, I guarantee it.
Right.
And I'm not making any indications about you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or there's a lot of CEOs of billion-dollar corporations out there that have business coaches.
Yes.
I'm sure those business coaches are making pretty good money as well, but probably not as much as the CEO, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of value in that. And I remember a coach I was working with about coaching other people. He was like, hey, if you're on chapter 2, you can help someone that's on chapter 1, right?
That's very common in the coaching industry. They're like, you just have to be 2 steps ahead of the person. From that perspective,
But also just understanding how to help people get clear on their visions and figure out what's getting in the way. I mean, I used to joke, I'm not going to run a marathon. I was in the Army. At one point in my life, I was in pretty good shape, and I'm still in decent shape. But I felt like I could, with some coaching, or a good coach, not me, but a good coach that has never ran a marathon, could probably still be a fairly effective coach. Maybe not the best.
Yeah.
But could still have those calls. Okay, what did you commit to last week? What did you actually do? What got in the way? And what are you going to do next week? That type of thing. But you add a lot more than just coaching. This, I know your title Adventure Travel Coach, but obviously you add just the actual experience of traveling, and there's so much more to it than that.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Okay, so you got to ATTA. I think that was brilliant. Do you know how I started this podcast? I went to ATTA.
There you go.
And I went on their website and I started going down through the list of people that I knew would be interesting, because I had been to an ATTA summit in Africa many years ago. And I was when I thought, who do I want to have conversations with? It's the same thing. It's like people that are doing this stuff. Where do those people hang out? So here's a plug for ATTA.
Yeah.
And I went there and did the same thing. And it sounds brilliant. As I'm thinking, depending on somebody to sit down and have the awareness that they need a travel coach and type that into Google, when most people don't have a clue what travel coach is.
Don't even know it exists. Yeah.
But here's the thing. You go to a trekking company and say, hey, this is what I do. Can you think of anybody that might want that? They're going to be like, oh my gosh, that would be great. Because we've had a lot of clients or potential clients that said, I would love to go on your trip, but I need help. And what do you say to somebody like that? You say, well, you could go join a gym. You could, let us know when you feel like you're ready and call back and we'll set you up on a trip. It makes perfect sense that they would say, hey, we know somebody.
Or I won't necessarily say worse, but they go on a trip unprepared and then they have a terrible time. And the group maybe has not such a great time because there's someone who really is like just not ready. And then the company has a problem too.
Yeah. Reviews,
you don't
refunds.
want, exactly. You don't want unhappy customers. So, my value proposition is, I know here I am in marketing speak, is it's a win-win-win. everybody wins. Like if
Yeah.
someone comes and works with me, they're going to have a better time. The group is going to have a better time. The guide's going to have a better time
The
because
tour
they're not worried about
operator's
this
gonna,
person.
yeah, it's going to be
The tour
easier,
operator's gonna
better
have
reviews,
better reviews.
referrals.
Everybody wins. It's a it's a no-lose proposition. Nobody loses.
This is a great conversation because so many of our listeners are tour operators. And maybe they've already connected with you, or maybe they're way ahead of me. This is when I was more active as a tour operator. Honestly, I'd never heard of it. Like, that was 20 years ago. But I'm imagining now, I mean, I work with some clients that are tour operators doing their marketing stuff. And sometimes I help put together trip planners. I'm like, what a great thing. You got a section in there. Hey, before your trip, you might want to consider at least having a conversation with somebody like Becki.
Absolutely.
To just have a conversation with her about any concerns you might have. And it's just part of the process. That's brilliant. That's exactly what you're doing, isn't it?
That's exactly how it works. Is with the folks that I'm actively partner with, they put my information on their website, in their materials, that 90-day out email, right? You've probably worked on a few of those.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's 3 months out. If you haven't already started your training for Kilimanjaro, now's a good time to think about it. Actually, for Kili, it might be a little late to think about it if you haven't really started. But certainly at 3 months, like that's a kind of a wake-up call. And, this is coming up. I booked it, 6-9 months, a year ago. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, it looks like that you've never had that experience before, Jason. It just snuck up on you.
You could see the look on my face. It's like, oh yeah, I was involved in a program where you set these kind of big goals and you had like 4 months to do it. And I remember reaching out to a coach about 2 weeks before. Hey, I still have 20 pounds to lose in the next 2 weeks. Can you help me?
Yeah, 20 pounds. Good luck. No,
I did it, but it was really, really, really miserable and probably not the safest
probably
thing.
not the healthiest thing.
But anyway.
So that's how it works with the tour operators is, they send people my way and, then I pick up the ball and take it from there. If someone wants to work with me, great. And if they just want to talk and they just want some advice, that's fine too. I just love to do this stuff. I love to help people. If they do want to work with me, I have several levels of packages and I customize things based on how much support people want. And my goal is really to make it easy for all of us.
I'm afraid to ask you this, but what's the most frustrating part of your job? We can edit this out later if you're like, Jason, this was going so well. And then I started talking about people that don't listen to my coaching or whatever. I don't know. But anyway.
I love it. No, seriously, it is hard for me to think of what's the most frustrating. I think the most frustrating is honestly not having more clients. Like it has taken a lot of time, like you said, to make people to build the awareness. And I feel like, I'm biased, but again, I feel like it's a no-brainer. But sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get people to understand, that this really is just like something easy that you can offer, or getting people to really get it. So that's the most frustrating thing, is that people will just be like, oh, that sounds great. That sounds really cool. I'm like, okay, so why do I not
What's
have
getting in the way? Yeah.
a million clients? I've not thought I would want a million clients, but that is like, it's interesting because it is such an unusual thing that it's just taken a lot of time and effort to build that awareness.
Where's I don't know, I'm not sure how to ask this, but where's the point, not where it breaks down, because obviously, it's working. You'd like to help more people. I get that. But where does it break down? Because I'm imagining you approach the tour operator and the tour operator's like, great, this is awesome.
They are busy people. There's a lot of moving parts. Tour operators have a ton going on. I completely appreciate that they have so many things that they're trying to manage. And the feedback I've gotten from some...
What you do helps them, right? So help me understand what you're saying.
People have just like integrating my information into their systems, getting it part of the process. Some tour operators are just like, it's just one more thing that I have to... and it's just one more thing I have to manage or think about or handle when, what I really need is for my, travel insurance vendor to be on deck. And I really, really need to have, there's just, the list is long.
So your struggle
And
is figuring out how to make it easier for them to incorporate it, but at the same time, coaching them.
yeah,
What's getting in the
yeah.
way?
Well, again, I get it, and some people are like, you know what? All our people are great. All our people come on trips; they're good to go. We don't have any problems with that. Whether that is a thing where they think there's no problem, and maybe there is, or maybe there's not. Maybe they do really get all their clients are really qualified.
Here's the thing. Okay, and maybe they're just happy only working with people that are ready to go.
Yeah, that's fine
But
too.
it's pretty easy to. I'm just thinking out loud here. If I could be like, no, all of our clients made it to the top of Kilimanjaro last year. We don't have a problem. Okay. But what about the 10% of clients that didn't book because you weren't able to give them the confidence that we can help you make this work? It's just
Right.
black or white. Like, if we think you can do it, we'll tell you you can do it and we'll book you. And if you come to us with any doubt at all, we say, you know what, maybe this isn't right for you. We can't help you.
And I have heard that there are operators that do that.
Yeah. Well, it might be fine, but they might also subconsciously be doing that. That's where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Is,
Yes.
when the person has these concerns and says, can you connect me with somebody that can help me get ready? Is there somebody on your team that I can talk to once a week as I'm getting ready? And they're like, yeah, I'm sorry. We really don't know anybody. That would be the opportunity to get more clients and work with somebody like you to help them get prepared. So now that instead of having 100 clients that made it to the top of Kilimanjaro, maybe they've got 120. And you know what? Those 20 that worked with somebody like you that had all those doubts and concerns going in, and the company referred them to you, those 20 people are going to be the ones that write the best reviews. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm preaching to the choir, aren't I?
Yep.
You've thought this out.
Let's do
You've
this.
had years thinking this out. Yeah, you should do that. That's a good idea, Becky. You should do that. Anyway, I think it's fascinating. I'm just interested in it. So thanks for indulging with me. All right, very cool. We've discussed a bunch of things. Did we miss any big gaps in how you got there, or maybe starting the business that you want to touch on? Or basically, what I'm trying to ask you is, Becky, what did I forget to ask you? What do you wish I would have asked you, so we don't miss out on anything before we wrap up?
Well, I'll go back to I kind of redirected you earlier when you said how do you work with clients? Like what's the process?
I'm easily
So
distracted.
so maybe let's circle back on that, because people might be wondering, this has been a super fun conversation, but people might be still wondering, like, well, how does this actually work?
Thank you. Hey, you should start a podcast. You're good at this. Thank you.
So
How does it work? How does
it work?
Yeah.
So I mentioned, consultation call, and people come to me. So I develop a customized training plan for them. And then we have coaching sessions based on basically how much support that they want or need. Usually at least 3 sessions. So I have a kickoff session with them, and then 2 other sessions between the time we start and the time of their trip. But it could be as often as weekly. I do have some clients who want to do like weekly 30-minute sessions. These are often the people who want more accountability, who just, want that extra support. Some people are every other week for an hour, or every 3 weeks for an hour. I really customize it based, again, what people want. And during those sessions, so I develop the plan. It's always changeable. We can always modify it based on life, right? Again, back to the, you twisted your ankle, you have an Achilles flare up, you have kids are sick, you're sick, whatever, parents are sick, life happens. We can recalibrate it whenever you need. And then the coaching sessions are to work through things like challenges you're running into, but also celebrating wins, celebrating those victories, digging into, any like things that are coming up, like, oh my gosh, I just, I'm not really sure I can do this, overcoming fears, things like that. And gear consultation, which is always fun. But I'm surprised at the number of people who are like, will you just go through, can we just go through with my bed full of stuff, and we can look at everything, and you can tell me what to take with me and what not to take with me. Or, or
so everything, every outdoor piece of equipment they have ever accumulated
no,
over 50 years.
Windowed it down.
Okay.
Do I take this jacket or this jacket, or I need, what brand of trekking poles do you like?
You should,
things like that.
man, if I'm a tour operator and you come to me and say, not, I want to work with your clients and need support, and that includes the checklist part, because that's where you save the tour operator time, is you say, look, anybody that, books me, does coaching with me, I will handle all those packing list questions. And then they're like, ooh, maybe this is a good idea. Maybe she's going to save us some time. I don't know, just a thought that popped in my head.
I will refer them back to their tour operator for some things. But
I'm sure.
I don't want to take the liability on that.
Well, yeah, because you don't want them showing up with the wrong thing. And well, Becki told me.
Yeah.
Becki told me I didn't need hiking boots.
Yeah. Right. No, the bottom line is like that. The coaching time is their time. Whatever's on your mind, like what's keeping you up at night, what's coming up in your everyday life that's challenging. What benchmarks do you want to set? How do you want to measure your progress? How do you want to build your confidence? It's a lot about building confidence in your ability to do this. So. Yeah, a lot of the coaching is just kind of around all those things, especially the stuff we talked about in the beginning. What's your vision? What do you want to get out of this, and how do you bring that to fruition? Yeah.
For some reason, as I listen to you discuss this, I'm thinking like, actually, I just had this conversation with someone recently about how I've heard the body doesn't really know the difference between anxious, or nervous or excited. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I guess the question I want to ask you is like, do you feel like most of the women or men or just clients, just people, do you think they start out mostly scared or excited, or are they able to put their finger on it? What comes across when they have that first call with you? Is it, oh, I booked this trip and now I'm scared? Or I booked this trip yesterday, I'm so excited to start planning? What does it usually sound
excited.
Like? Is
mostly
it good?
Excited.
Good.
Yeah. One of my consultation call questions is always like, what are you most concerned about? Because if you're not concerned, you wouldn't be talking to me, right?
Yeah.
So, people have concerns, but they're mostly excited. I would say, 70-80% excited and wanting to do the things that are necessary so that they can realize that dream. And there's depending on the person, 10, 20, 30, 40% of it that is, holy crap, what did I sign up for?
I just put down my deposit. It's non-refundable. And
yeah.
I told my sister and she told me I was crazy. And oh my gosh, now I'm scared because I don't want to tell her she was right. So I got to make this work type of thing. I can imagine. Yeah.
Or there's people are like, I told all my friends I was doing this, so now I really got to do it.
Which actually is like probably a coaching technique. Sometimes I don't know what your approach is, but it's like, the more it's that accountability. Now you've got your whole family holding you accountable, but that also can create some scaredness and some problems if something happens, right?
Well, and that's what I talk to people about too. And that's part of some of the coaching too, is like, okay, so what if you don't make it to the top of Kilimanjaro? Because there are a lot of reasons you might not.
Yeah.
Weather. Illness, there's a lot of things just outside of your control.
People fall down going up the stairs. There's reasons that you might not make it to the second story of your house. So exactly. And you're talking about Kilimanjaro, something might happen.
Yeah. So it's super fun though. I really love it.
Do you have the opportunity? I'm sure you get feedback and I'm sure you connect, but I just want to ask directly, is there like a after action review, like when they get home? Do you have another call with them?
We have a debrief.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do a debrief call. I mean, if people want it, most people do. I would say probably 80-90% of my clients, we have a debrief, and I ask them what they are glad they did, what they wish what advice do they have for me of things that I could have done better, that they wish they would have done more of or known. Yeah, we definitely have a debrief, and that's really valuable for all of us.
I'm curious, have you had the situation where you've had a what do you call it? Your first call? Is it a discovery call type of thing?
Consultation.
Consultation. Whatever. Have you had situations where you do the consultation and then they either disappear or just flat out say, "Nah, I don't think so"? And then this is a two-part question. One is, and then they call you back a week before the trip. Or two, okay, good.
Never.
Or two, do they come back, hey, I'm doing Kilimanjaro, I'm thinking about this. Oh, okay, no, I'm not gonna hire you. They go do Kilimanjaro, and then
a year later they say, okay, now I'm doing Everest Base Camp and I should have booked you. I learned my lesson. I should have booked you the first time. I'm just curious if that happens. No, okay.
I've had people say that they realized from a previous trip that they really would benefit from this kind of service, but nobody who had been in touch with me before and decided not to has come back.
I just want to ask you, like, I told you so.
No. Of course, I would never say that.
Not that you would do that. You're too nice for that. But all right, this is very cool. So we got through the process that you reminded me that we definitely wanted to get through. What else? Is there anything else that you want to leave with our listeners before we go?
I just, like to encourage people to go ahead and pursue what they want to do. And, some people I think say, oh, now I'm too old, or, I'm too this or I'm too that. But just let's give it a try. Let's see what we can do, because it's not going to get any easier.
Yeah,
Nobody's getting any younger. Nobody's getting any younger. So I've worked with people in their 70s, and it's really inspiring to me. It's really inspiring to me to work with my clients and who go do all this stuff when I still got 20 years. It's awesome.
Yeah. Not cool. And going back to the, maybe they've got a partner that's just not enthusiastic, has no desire to go do these things. They don't have friends or family that are going to talk them up. So if you're surrounded by that, it's easy to just, I guess I'm too old. My partner's telling me, what, are you crazy? You're too old. You wake up in the morning complaining about how your legs hurt and now you want to go climb Kilimanjaro or whatever. So they're not getting a lot of positive reinforcement and support.
Yeah.
And so for somebody that's living, with, their loved ones around them are kind of like that, it's easy for us to say, well, just go do it. But nobody else in their life is telling them to just go do it.
Right.
So I love that you're able to do. A tour operator might on a sales call.
Yeah,
so you should just go do it.
Absolutely.
But to have somebody that could.
Clear, I'm not saying that anybody and everybody should necessarily do it. Let's just have a conversation, Yeah,
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point is, if you've got something in your head that's like, I really would like to do this, but everybody around me thinks, I'm crazy for whatever reason. And maybe it's because their partner doesn't want you spending the money. Maybe it has nothing to do with, whatever it is. So at least have a conversation with somebody that is, that can tap into that part of your brain or your heart that's saying, I want to go do it before you make any decisions, right? So yeah, that's very cool. I'm really happy we had this conversation. I knew it was going to be fascinating. Honestly, it was, I don't want to say it was a lot better than I thought, because that makes it sound like I didn't think it would be a great conversation. But I'm just really, really happy we did it. And thank you so much for sharing your insights, experiences, and just your energy. It's great. Thank you so much, Becki.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, thank you too.
It's been fun. Soon. Yep, we'll do it again soon. We still have more stuff to talk about, I'm sure. So, all right. Thanks, Becki.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I trust you enjoyed listening to the conversation as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're enjoying the Big World Made Small podcast, please take a moment to tell the algorithm by subscribing and posting a review so that others can benefit as well. I also invite you to take a quick trip over to bigworldmadesmall.com and join our private adventure travel community to receive new episode notifications, special access to our guest experts, and perhaps even some exclusive partner offers that we haven't discussed on the podcast. I'll publish another episode soon. Until then, keep exploring. It's the best way to make a big world feel just a bit smaller.